Hello, beloved twin flames. This is Stephanie Parasha, Divine Light, coming out to you from India, out a little bit further than where I normally am. In India, I'm sort of on a mini holiday that was very unplanned. Within a couple of days, I just packed up and decided to go. I got invited out to stay with some old friends, and that happened to be during that time period, the 15th to the 19th of April, that I mentioned to you all a wee while back that I thought was going to be something really big happening during that time. I wasn't sure. I can't say what's going to happen, but they just told me it's an energetic gateway of some kind, really big energies happening throughout this time. So here I am out here in a very rural kind of area. I've got very limited reception, and I've just been meditating and went for a swim and came and got a little bit of time by myself and just got these massive downloads, and I'm like, I have to try and share this with you. So I'm hoping that this can be the video that gets uploaded because it's just coming through. There's a lot of information. So I'm just going to speak to how it comes. It may seem a little bit garbled or whatever, but I'm a transmitter, so it's kind of like translating Morse code in a way. It's kind of like, okay, I'm going to, I'll have to translate to how it's presented to me. So I kind of sat there with this feeling in my mind, how come we talk about twin flames and we talk about light workers? What is the difference? And I know some of you may ask that. And so the question was answered with all twin flames are light workers, but not all light workers are twin flames. Light workers have come with a specific mission on this planet to bring the light and to anchor the light onto this planet at this time, and their bodies have been specifically coded and carry a specific frequency in order to transmit as if they're transmitters to anchor in this light in its purest form onto the planet. So light means truth. It means mainly truth. It means information. It means direct inner source energy. Now, twin flames have come with a kind of, they're like what you call a specific kind of squad, and they're kind of comparing it to, let's just say, when you've got, the army or a police unit, but you have like the armed defenders squad, and they're kind of a specialized unit of the army. So they're still in the army or they're still in the police force, but they have a specialty role. So the twin flames are like that, and they've come in with a specific role, and that is related to the duality of the planet, and they're collapsing that duality. So their aim is, and specifically the main, as I've talked about with twin flames, the main polarities that we see on the planet are male and female. So that's why they've come in as if they are two separate things, but they're actually the same one. So that's what we're actually trying to bring to the attention and bring through in terms of information, and breaking down the duality and the polarities of how we see two opposing forces as different things, completely different and opposing each other, as they're actually equal things. They're the same thing. And they're actually the one thing. I know that seems like a hard concept, because we are living in this third density construct that tells us that two things are the complete opposite. That's what the third dimension is all about. It's all about that duality. So what they were kind of showing me was that it's kind of like an undercover in a way, because, and in some ways we're lifting the covers as well. Like the undercover is that we've got caught up, quite a few twin flames have got caught up in this whole masculine, feminine construct, which is really the very thing that we're trying to break down. So masculine, stereotypically the male and the stereotypical female. So what they're showing me is that many twin flames are undercover. So that's why you're going to have male twin flames that are carrying the feminine polarity, and female twin flames that are carrying the masculine. So that's why we're going to suddenly go, we thought you were the guy and now you're the girl. And twin flames are meant to confuse that excuse me, that stereotypical view for a reason, because we're going to come in all shapes and sizes for the reason of breaking down all of these various categories and compartmentalizations and stereotypes and labels that humans have put on everything in order to keep everything separated. Twin flames have come in to bring the unity. Sorry, I'm going to have to pause for a second. Okay, so the other thing that twin flames are here to do, as well as light workers, are to help assist humanity with the ascension to shift into what's known as the fifth dimension. So the fifth dimension is where we live in a world where we all pretty much respect each other, we love each other, we respect the planet, and we're in communion always with higher self and nature, and where our higher self is actually constantly 100%, 24/7, completely we're in our heart space, and we're using all of our higher functions, and we're operating without those lower density emotions and thought forms that bring us into a state of imbalance and disharmony with our environment and with others. So we are, as we know and we can feel, evolving towards that. And so how to get there involves going through what's known as the fourth dimension. And people often say, well, what is that? What is the fourth dimension? And the best way I've heard it described, in the way that I've had it described to me as well, and I'm glad to see other people using these definitions, because it's a strange one to kind of pin down, but it's the part where we have to master our energy and master our emotions. So we have to get through this field. It's like a field, you could say, because we're moving through energetically, quantum physically. We're not actually going from a physical place to a physical place. We're moving through energetic fields. So when we're in an energetic field where we're still operating in lower density but trying to ascend to a higher density, we need to overcome some of those lower emotions. And many people have described this in the past as the part that's, like the dark night of the soul, or the battle of where we have to battle demons and dark entities and our shadow and our ego. And this has been known as one of the hardest parts of the journey. And so this is where we seem to find ourselves a little bit stuck at times on this journey. And so some of us have been given the role to, what I hear in my words are just bring people home. And so the sense is that we are running out of time as we see it on the third dimension, because they're saying this stuff's about to blow. So basically things are going to heat up in the third dimension because it cannot sustain itself. That type of energy field will no longer be sustainable in the multiverse, and it will kind of self-implode. So those that are still going around unconsciously are still really behaving in ways that are really disrespectful to themselves and others, and harmful to themselves and others, will find themselves in a situation that is pretty unpleasant. So this is not really desirable for people to be in that. So we have to have our best attempt to try and, especially those people that are trying their best to get out of this. I think that those are the people that we're really aiming for now, because those are maybe the ones that have awakened and they've seen that they can create change in their lives, but they're just not quite sure how, because of so much mental programming and conditioning that has kept people so trapped in certain ways of thinking, and it's captured the emotions. So you've got the thoughts and the emotions together manifesting and creating such a difficult situation, because it feels so, it's a very magnetic energy, it's very a downward force. So I know myself, having tried to traverse this fourth dimension, found it extremely hard and took me quite a long time in linear years to get through this. But we're now being given a lot of divine dispensation and assistance to move through this energy faster, and we've been given tools in which to get through this stage. So those tools are pretty simple. We've been given through neuroscience exact information on how and why, when people experience neglect or trauma of any kind, which to a newly born human soul who's just come from the purest light and love, comes onto the planet and experiences anything that is not love, that energy retracts and recoils and finds it very difficult to survive, and has therefore developed through the human body system the four main survival mechanisms in order to survive: the fight, flight, freeze and fawn, which is by the body's design. That's by the thoughts, emotions, and into the body, so the body's response. So over time that has developed into psychological responses. So they would be, for example, the flight response is when we disassociate, parts of ourself go out and leave the body because they don't feel safe at that moment and disappear, and that creates holes in that person's psyche where they're constantly reaching out and trying to fill those holes and gaps with love, with shopping, with alcohol, with cigarettes, with whatever it is they can find, and that creates that reaching out type of personality. We've got the fight response, which becomes, the person who puts up their walls, becomes very defensive. You will use various psychological techniques of bullying or manipulation or projection and blame in order to keep their walls of defense up, and will never be able to see that is their way of protecting their little inner child, actually, that is really afraid inside and doesn't want to be found out, because again we've been shamed if we as children expressed an emotion of dislike to what was happening around us. We were shut down and we were not allowed to express our true feelings. So that what has been created, these various ego defense mechanisms, which have really only come about in order to protect us. Then, of course, we have the freeze response, which is psychologically classic denial, where there's nothing wrong here, everything's fine. The mask becomes very, but it's a friendly one, it's just like this created, but yet there's no feelings. There's not even an ability to feel even love when it comes to them, because they aren't able to access their emotions. They're completely shut off from their emotions entirely. So that person can often feel like they've just emotionally cold and distant, and so that is again an ego defense mechanism in order to protect the little hurt part of the self that's inside, still upset. Now we have that other one, fawn, which is the sort of person who will try and compromise or negotiate, or often people please and make offerings to others of gifts in order to get a good response from someone and to receive love, the love that they're looking for. So, just that's a really quick, brief rundown of the psychological, psycho-emotional response that the body has. So to get us, I'm telling you this because this is a gateway of information that helps people cross the line, because when we are seeing the parts of ourselves as, fighting our demons, or dealing with the dark side, or dealing with the shadow, it feels difficult to the psyche. We don't want to go there. It's again too scary. So what we're actually doing is we're not dealing with demons. What we're doing here is actually turning the safety switch off, the ego safety switch, and we're saying that mechanism is no longer able to be used here. It's invalid, and it's okay now to be vulnerable and to be to create your own, instead of the ego response, which is a judging response of, you can't let people see you like this, you need to develop this because that'll protect you from pain. We need to develop a self-loving, compassionate, accepting, forgiving energy. However you want to create that energy, I work with people and give them suggestions that they maybe have like what I call a self-love soldier or a self-love angel, or maybe a beautiful parent or a guiding light that just helps them through these times when we're actually trying to be authentic here. We're trying to be real. We're breaking down all of these ego defense mechanisms that have previously kept us safe and when required in order to exist in a third dimensional survival based reality. Now we are moving out of that, and we've got to allow our emotions to come with us. We can't say, oh, I've still got to shut off those emotions, and to get to the next stage I just need to be strong in my mind. That is not going to work. We need to actually embrace and love and allow and accept our emotions to come with us. And when we do that, we give them acknowledgement and validation, and they feel then that it's safe. That's when they feel it's safe. Oh, it's safe now. Somebody's actually hearing me and loving me and is holding me safe. That is what is going to get us through to the next part. It's really important now that we really acknowledge and do this stage, and we don't skip it, because this, believe it or not, is related on a macro scale to, if we look at some of the big players out there, the big egomaniacs that are just, their egos have got out of control, and that's what has been ruling the planet for a really long time. When we're able to do this on a big scale emotionally, this shifts the energetic field of the whole planet, helps everybody. That's what we're here to do. We're here to assist. We can only do that when we've done it ourselves first. Please, if anyone needs any help with this, please get in touch with me. I'm here to help you do this work, to help guide the way. I'm kind of considering myself in some ways like a kind of a spiritual coach, spiritual midwife, emotional healer, and, you know, lover of us, lover of humans, lover of the path that we're doing. Okay, so I just wanted to add a little bit more to this recording. So the other part of the twin flame, mission, because what I'm talking about here with reconciling the inner child who's lost and hurt and afraid and wounded and has never really been allowed to experience love. We need to reconcile that part as twin flames. Our job is also that reconciliation of the two polar opposites. The polar opposites representing the hurt little child that was never acknowledged, and the ego defense mechanism that came in to protect the inner child, but actually was representing the voice of the critical parent, the critical societal group, the cultural group. In order to be accepted, this is how you have to be. You can't be that little scared child. You need to develop this in order to survive. So those two are also polar opposites. So how do we reconcile and come into the middle point to heal this part? It's also part of our journey as twin flames to come into the heart. The heart is part of this whole polarization. There's so much to this. I'm really simplifying it. It's on so many levels, much, much bigger than this. But twin flames are also here to re-establish the pathway of the heart back into the heart, where we were not able to experience life through our hearts because it was too vulnerable. It was too dangerous in this third density, which was a duality form of life. And so in order to come back into a balance where previously the mind led the way, we need to come into our hearts, and we are coming in this way and to bring in love. So we've also got to do this we need to do this within ourselves first, so that then we can bring that into our relationships, because whatever we're experiencing within the self becomes how we reflect and project and experience our holographic reality in relation to others. So our twin being the major, magnified, intensified reflection of that. So the twin flame path is, as we know and we have discovered, those of us that have realised we're on this journey and been sort of thrust into this, that have a spiritual awareness, is that we need to do this heart work ourselves. We need to come into the self-love. We need to reconcile our own masculine and feminine. We also need to reconcile our little inner child and to really tell that ego mechanism it's time to just sit back there now. We've got this new way of dealing with life, and self-love that little inner child and create that balance of love within ourselves. Because what that ego defense mechanism creates in relationships is that's where we get that 3D relationship template of the fear that the other person's going to leave us, so that creates control and manipulation, ownership, jealousy. So all of that is what we are also working on. We're working on so many things that are all kind of interrelated, but it's, I don't want to complicate things, but I'm just trying to show you how, as we're on this journey of self-healing within ourselves, how that relates to the twin flame journey and how essential it is to do this healing work rather than, there's a lot out there on focusing on what the other twin is doing and focusing a lot on this being kind of like a romance and coming together with your twin and all of that. That is the ultimate goal. We know that, but there is a journey that we need to go on first before we can reach that state of pure, true, loving, unconditional, loving and light aspect of being together with our twin flame when our energies are set in alignment, and the energy being your emotions, the emotions equal energy. So when your thoughts and emotions are aligned to true love and light within your own energy field, then at least one twin can be stabilized in that energy field, and then you'll be able to reflect each other through that healing journey. So we now know, and we've been given information, that the divine masculine twin flame parts of the twin flame pairs, and I'm not talking about men, I'm talking about the twin that holds more of the masculine polarity, which could in many cases be the female twin, is now activated and has been urged in the last few months specifically to really work on their own inner healing. So twins have been given space in preparation over the last 2 years to work on this inner healing work. It's becoming a lot more information has come to us on how to do this work. Alongside of that, we've got a lot of beautiful meditative tools and all sorts of various like violet flames and white lights and blue lights and golden lights and silver energy and so many beautiful things that help us reset and calibrate. But again, working on those, really checking in now deeply with ourselves on the true feelings that are running underneath that are now getting cleared up. We might have had thoughts in our mind that we're wanting to have as the ultimate thought, but perhaps we're still running something underneath that's counteracting that we were unaware of, that now some of those things are coming up for healing and clearing. We really need to work on getting those things up and out now. I think we're getting very, very adept at having a lot more awareness in any given situation of when we are out of alignment. So now what that means is where that's happening, where we've come out of alignment, it's always go back to that point of where am I not loving myself here in this situation? Where do I need to love myself more? Where is maybe my inner child still struggling with something that's happened here? Or where's the trauma that had originally put me into this state of fear? How do I need to love myself more to get myself out of that place? Okay, so this is really the simplistic pathway, and it's what I find helps people the most when we're doing our healing. It's just where we can get stuck is when the ego mechanisms that have been in place for so long won't even allow us to get anywhere near that inner child. That's what, when people refer to fighting your demons, that's what you're actually dealing with, is just the ego. We just need to say to the ego, it's okay, I'm here now to sort this out. I'm here to pretty much rescue my inner child and be there for her or him, and help that little child come into self-love and no longer judge and shame, because the ego will continue to do that. The ego, that's why it's there. It's actually thinks it's protecting you from the judgment and shame, but it's actually reinforcing continually the judgment and the shame. So we're moving away from that now. Okay, I'm going to leave this here because I don't want this video to be too long, and I just want to send you out so much love and light right now, and know that there are many healers here in our community that can help those that are needing that support right now. Please don't be afraid to reach out and get support and healing to help you through. If you feel like you're sinking, some of us have done this already. We know how to pull out of that quicksand. So please don't be afraid to reach out and get support and help and guidance. Okay, lots of love, everybody. I will talk to you all again really soon. Bye for now.